Is China threatening our food supply? We'll have that and more on today's WNN Report. Hello and welcome back to the Watchman News Network. In a recent report, it's been discovered that China has been buying up factories, food processing plants, as well as farmland. Now, we recently did a report on food shortages as well as the food processing plants being burned up and destroyed. But Riverside Homestead Life has just done a report. I think you'll find this very interesting and enlightening. And we all want to know the truth about what's going on in the world. Here now is that report.
What China just did to California, and in a bigger picture, did to the United States. Coming right up, something you need to know.
You know, China's pretty smart. They said, look, we've got to have food security. How are we going to get there? We can't do it in our own country. Let's go buy up America for the people in China.
American soil is becoming less and less American.
The federal government has to change the way they're doing business. We're getting beat by almost every other country in the world.
Foreign companies are snapping up land across the country, millions of acres of farmland. But the U.S. government doesn't know exactly how much because thousands of acres are missing from the federal data.
Welcome back to all the subs. If you're brand new here, be sure to hit the notification bell if you want weekly tips and weekly updates. Let's jump into this one. Okay, so I was watching a report on my friend's channel, Adam Snyder. He did this segment on what happened in California, and I wanted to make sure that I put it out there to my community just so you know what's going on. Now, there's a bigger picture going on here, and I'll tell you about it here in a minute. So do you like bacon? Do you like pork? Well, sadly enough, the largest plant in the entire United States is being shut down. 1,800 jobs will be lost in California.
Emily, this all surrounds a plant closure in Vernon, California. And while that plant isn't in Utah, hundreds of people in the state produce pigs that end up at this plant.
I can't even imagine. I mean, it's the worst train wreck possible in our future.
Why is this a huge deal? Well, it happens to be that Smithfield, which is a huge processing plant for pork, is owned by someone in Hong Kong. And guys, don't forget to comment down in the comments. Let me know what you know. Share this video if you think it's important. Like it if you found it informative. And maybe you've already heard of this, but I got some really big news at the end of this video. You won't want to miss it. China-owned huge plants in California, which will take a huge hit and affect all of us Americans. How will it affect us? Well, being the largest plant, the largest producing plant in the entire United States, how much do you think that's going to affect the pork prices? How about all the pork that was going to this plant that was getting processed, which happens to be about 1 million pounds a day? That much meat takes a very large plant, the largest in the United States, in fact. Then you got Utah, which has many of the contracts that supply the pork to this plant, which now has an enormous amount of pork that doesn't necessarily have a place to go.
Proclaiming a local state of economic emergency, Pearson says it's essentially an SOS to state leaders and businesses for help.
It gets so much worse. Beaver County declared an economic emergency. So that means China caused an economic emergency. Why they're even allowed to own such a huge monstrosity of a corporation on American ground doesn't make sense to me. It should be American owned. But it gets worse. The fact that China owns so many factories, so many processing plants, they've got their hand in the cookie jar all over our country. And it doesn't stop there. They own so much land, they own so many farms, and I could go down a rabbit hole with this. they actually own so many military bases throughout the world on other countries' grounds with contracts that state no one can know it's there. And that's another video. Back to the story. Department of Agriculture in Utah says this is going to have a huge impact on Utah with 28 contracts with Utah farms. What's the bigger picture? Our food industry is getting taken down in front of our eyes. A new food processing plant is burning as we speak. They really must think that we're stupid to see processing plant after processing plant, food plants burning up once every week or once every 2 weeks, at least once every month. Who's behind it? There's theories that it's China. And there's theories out there that it could be China, but more so Russia doing cyber attacks. It really makes sense because they wouldn't come out and tell us that. They would have to keep that on the hush hush. Otherwise, we would have to take action, a big action. But let's not get into that because there's not enough information on the table for that, and I don't want to disappear. Experts are also saying that there's another large plant in California that is also shutting down. Even more worrisome, there's more Smithfield Foods plants all over the United States. So we will know if they all start shutting down that this is an attack on our country. Some of you might think, well, I don't eat pork. This ain't gonna bother me. Wrong. There's millions of people that love bacon. And when they can't afford that bacon or it's not available, they are going to have to turn to another meat, and that's going to be the meat that you're probably eating. Also, driving the price up and becoming more absent. You never know. The next big plant, say in Virginia, might go next. Back to China owning such big fundamental things, especially dealing with food that feeds America. How is it that we have made a system that allows Chinese to buy up so many factories, buy so many food processing plants, and buy so much land and farms? Oh, and I did a deep dive on the Chinese-owned farms, and it's crazy. There are so many foreign-owned farms, mostly Chinese, that are so sly and slick with their purchasing agreements. They are burying these purchases, businesses under businesses under businesses deep. Much like the stuff that Billy O. Gates owns. Like, I researched some of his stuff. He had sub companies that owned farms that had a business mailbox that was attached to a shed in the middle of nowhere. But the Chinese are doing the same thing. They're hiding this ownership. In fact, deep dive it yourself. Go for it. You will not be able to find how many foreign, especially Chinese, owned farms and land there is in the United States. It gets messy, and journalists and reporters that have dug deep on this say that there's no telling how much land they really own.
The Agriculture Foreign Investment Disclosure Act, or AFIDA, requires companies to report foreign-owned or controlled agriculture land. But our analysis of those records has uncovered the federal AFIDA records appear to be missing significant acres of land.
Do you believe the AFIDA documents that's it?
No, it's incomplete data. There's no doubt in my mind it's incomplete. I think that there's a capacity for the government to know what owns the land and who's investing, but they're going to have to require public disclosures.
Loka Ashwood is a professor at the University of Kentucky. She studied agriculture policy and trends and has looked at corporate land ownership, but like our national investigative team, in many cases found it difficult to pinpoint who owns what.
And if we don't have accurate information on who holds the title or who holds the deed, then we're no longer even upholding the basic system of property rights in the United States.
We looked at the federal data and found obvious issues, from missing details to thousands of acres of foreign-owned land that didn't show up in the USDA's records. For example, a former Chinese military officer's purchase of 140,000 acres to build a wind farm in Valverde County, Texas, made big news and alarmed lawmakers. We found records with the county's assessor's office indicating one of his entities owned the land, but there's no sign of that in the federal data. In Utah, a local paper reported a ranch started getting hate mail after a Chinese company bought the property in Uintah County about 10 years ago. But when we checked federal data, we found no records of Chinese-owned land there.
But the truth is, the theories are, China is trying to ruin us from within in many ways. It's economic food warfare. The fact of the matter is, our food industries are disappearing. And can you guys agree that there's way too many people out there in like media zombie land, oblivious to what's going on? Share this video, flood social media, Facebook, wake these people up. And here's the big thing. China and Russia are teaming up. Russia wants to take over Ukraine. China wants to take over Taiwan. Many people are reporting that it's already World War III. Lots of people are reporting that China has declared war on Taiwan. And honestly, I don't know what's true anymore. But here's the thing. United States and our leadership, being the great protectors, what's going to happen when Taiwan gets attacked by China? Because Taiwan's not giving in. I'm not sure if you guys have watched the news, but Taiwan is standing strong. They're talking about bombing the biggest cities, if they have to. Well, what happens when the United States jumps in the middle of that mess as well? China's got 10 times the people to throw into a war. China and Russia teaming up. Look at the bigger picture, guys. It's getting thicker by the day. And I'm not sure if you guys know too much about what's going on with China and Taiwan, but Adam Snyder's got a great video right here. I'll leave it up at the end of the screen. Check it out. He does a deep dive on China and Taiwan. Get your information there for that. But like I'm always saying, prep now. Get prepping. Get what you need. Multiple countries are telling their people to be prepped for a year. All countries, everyone's getting unraveled. Obama's building a bunker, they say. It's getting real, guys. Keep prepping, be smart, keep doing. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Well, I agree, and I am baffled why our government allows this to happen. Well, that's all for our WNN report today. Until next time, I'm Brad Polk for the Watchman News Network.